The massive ships appeared without warning over Earth's major cities. They were enormous, blocking out the sun in some places, casting shadows that stretched for miles. Captain Deho stood on the observation deck of the Seoul Defense Station, staring at the vessels with growing unease. His communicator buzzed constantly with reports from every continent. Nobody knew what these ships wanted, but everyone feared the worst. The message came through on all channels simultaneously. A tall alien with purple skin and cold yellow eyes appeared on every screen across the planet. His name was Velthor, and he spoke with the tone of someone announcing a minor inconvenience rather than a life-changing event. People of Earth, your world has been selected by the Velthoran Empire to receive humanitarian relief. You will accept 6 million Cowrathi refugees effective immediately. This is not a request. Your recent opposition to our territorial policies has consequences. Consider this an opportunity to prove your species has value to the Galactic Assembly. Before anyone could respond, the ships began their descent. Massive transport vessels landed in designated zones across every continent. The doors opened and people started pouring out. They looked exhausted, hungry, and scared. They had blue-tinted skin and were slightly taller than humans, with large eyes that seemed to hold too much sadness. These were the Cowrathi, and they arrived in numbers that made every government on Earth panic. Deho received orders to secure the landing zone outside. So, when he arrived with his team, he saw thousands of refugees stumbling off the ships. Many were injured. Children cried in their parents' arms. The elderly could barely walk. Medical supplies were clearly inadequate, and the smell of sickness hung in the air. A woman pushed through the crowd carrying a small child who wasn't moving. She begged in a language Deho didn't understand, but her meaning was clear. The child needed help immediately. Deho called for medics, but they were already overwhelmed. He watched helplessly as the woman collapsed, still holding her child. Meanwhile, Dr. Hana arrived at the United Nations emergency session in New York. The room was chaos. Representatives shouted at each other in dozens of languages. Some demanded the aliens be sent back immediately. Others worried about the humanitarian crisis. A few saw political opportunity in the situation. We cannot accept 6 million refugees, the American representative insisted. Our resources are already stretched thin from climate restoration projects. This will destroy our economies. They are dying, Dr. Hana said firmly, cutting through the noise. Right now, as we argue, people are dying in those camps. Children. We can debate politics later, but if we do nothing now, we become complicit in genocide. The room fell silent. Dr. Hana continued, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. She had been awake for 30 hours straight since the ships arrived. The Velthorans expect us to fail. They want us to reject these refugees and prove to the galaxy that humanity is cruel and selfish. I propose we do the opposite. We accept them temporarily, provide immediate humanitarian aid, and figure out long-term solutions while keeping everyone alive. The debate continued for hours, but eventually, a resolution passed. Earth would accept the Cowrathi refugees on a temporary basis. Emergency funds were allocated, and disaster response teams mobilized worldwide. It was far from perfect, but it was a start. Back at the Seoul camp, Deho walked through rows of makeshift shelters. The Velthorans had provided nothing except transport. No food, no medicine, no supplies of any kind. The refugees had only the clothes they wore and whatever they could carry. Many had nothing at all. An older Cowrathi man sat outside a tent, staring at the ground. Deho approached carefully and offered a bottle of water. The man looked up with surprise, then cautiously accepted. He drank slowly, as if savoring every drop. Through a translator device, the man introduced himself as Krathel. He had been a teacher on the Cowrathi colony world, before everything fell apart. "The Velthrons promised us a new home," he said quietly. "They gave us defective equipment, contaminated supplies, and then abandoned us when the colony failed. Thousands died. These 6 million are all that survived." Deho felt anger building in his chest. This wasn't humanitarian relief. This was dumping inconvenient survivors on a world the Velthrons wanted to punish. Two problems solved with one cruel action. News broadcasts showed protests erupting in major cities. In London, thousands marched demanding the refugees be sent away. In Mumbai, counter-protesters gathered to welcome the newcomers. Social media exploded with arguments, conspiracy theories, and heated debates. Politicians gave speeches supporting both sides. The world was dividing rapidly. Dr. Hana worked through the night, coordinating relief efforts and trying to prevent the situation from spiraling into chaos. Her team compiled data on the refugees, assessing their immediate needs. The numbers were staggering. They needed 180,000 tons of food per day just for basic nutrition. Medical care required resources equivalent to building 50 new hospitals overnight. Housing, water, sanitation, every category showed impossible demands. But as she reviewed the medical data, something caught her attention. The Kalrathi physiology included some unusual features. Their biology showed evidence of advanced genetic engineering, far beyond what humanity had achieved. She made a note to investigate further when there was time. Outside, the Velthoran ships finished unloading their cargo of desperate people and prepared to depart. Velthor appeared on screens one final time. "We will return in 6 months to inspect your progress," he said with obvious satisfaction. "The Galactic Assembly will be very interested in how Earth handles this crisis. We expect complete chaos." The ships lifted off, leaving Earth alone with 6 million new residents and a challenge that seemed impossible to overcome. As Deho watched them disappear into the sky, he made a decision. The Velthrons expected cruelty and failure. He would make certain they received neither. 6 weeks had passed since the Velthrons dumped the Kalrathi on Earth, and the planet had transformed in ways nobody expected. What started as panic had turned into something else entirely. Something the Velthrons never anticipated. Engineer Taemin stood in what used to be empty desert in Mongolia, watching construction robots work at incredible speed. Massive 3D printers built housing units in hours instead of months. Automated systems laid foundation after foundation in perfect rows. Around him, thousands of workers from dozens of countries coordinated the largest construction project in human history. "How many units completed today?" he asked his assistant. 12,000 across all sites worldwide, came the response. "We're actually ahead of schedule." Taemin allowed himself a small smile. The Soul Protocol, named after the first successful integration camp, was working better than anyone dared hope. The plan was simple but ambitious. Instead of keeping refugees in temporary camps, humanity decided to build permanent cities designed for integration. Mixed neighborhoods where humans and Kalrathi would live side by side from the beginning. The key was speed. Taemin's teams used every advanced technology Earth possessed. Modular construction, automated systems, and round-the-clock work schedules. What would normally take years was happening in months. The new cities rose from empty land like something from a dream. Meanwhile, in the original Soul Camp, Jiwon organized her army of volunteers. She was a teacher before the crisis, and now she coordinated the largest education program ever attempted. Millions of civilians had stepped forward to help, offering their time, skills, and resources. Group 7, "You're teaching basic Korean today," she called out to a cluster of volunteers. "Remember, patience is key. Many of them are still traumatized. Learn from them, too. This isn't just about teaching our ways." The cultural exchange went both ways. Humans taught language, helped navigate Earth systems, and shared their customs. In return, the Kalarathi shared their knowledge. It turned out they knew things humanity had been struggling with for decades. 1. Kalarathi engineer showed human farmers a biological technique for enriching soil that doubled crop yields without chemicals. Another taught doctors a method for treating infection that was safer and more effective than antibiotics. The refugees weren't just receiving help, they were contributing from day one. Captain Deho spent his weeks investigating something that bothered him from the beginning. The story about the failed colony didn't add up. Colonies failed sometimes, but losing 90% of the population before evacuation? That suggested something worse. He dug through data recovered from Kalarathi computers, information the Veltharans didn't know the refugees still had. What he found made his blood run cold. Orders from Veltharan officials to provide substandard equipment. Contaminated water supplies shipped deliberately. Medical supplies that were expired or outright fake. This wasn't a failed colony. This was intentional genocide. The Veltharans had tried to eliminate the Kalarathi slowly, then dumped the survivors on Earth, expecting them to die from neglect. 2 problems solved with 1 solution. Deho shared his findings with sympathetic members of the Galactic Assembly through back channels. Some were horrified. Others claimed it was internal Veltharan business. But seeds of doubt were planted about the Empire's true nature. Dr. Hanna worked with Elder Krathel, trying to build trust between their peoples. The old teacher remained suspicious of any authority after what the Veltharans did. Many Kalarathi felt the same way. They had been betrayed before and expected it to happen again. Why should we believe you're different? Krathel asked during one of their meetings. The Veltharans promised us a home too. They smiled and made treaties. Then they tried to kill us. Because we're not them, Dr. Hanna said simply. Judge us by our actions, not their crimes. Look around. Humans are building homes for your people, not prisons. They're teaching your children, not separating families. Yes, some humans want you gone. Some are afraid or angry, but most are trying to help. Slowly, trust began to form. The Kalarathi started to believe that maybe, just maybe, Earth was different. The first joint community center opened in New Bizan, a new city built specifically for integration. The building combined human and Kalarathi architectural styles. Inside, children from both species played together while their parents attended language classes or job training sessions. It was small, fragile, and absolutely beautiful. A human child named Subin became friends with a Kalarathi child named Taleth. They didn't speak the same language at first, but they figured out games that transcended words. Their parents watched nervously at first. Then with growing warmth as the friendship developed naturally. Your daughter is teaching mine to draw, Taleth's mother said to Subin's father through a translator. She's so patient with her. Your son taught mine a song, Subin's father replied. I don't understand the words, but it's beautiful. These small moments happen thousands of times across the planet. Individual connections that built into something larger. Not everything went smoothly. Some human communities resisted having Kalarathi neighbors. Some Kalarathi groups wanted to stay separate, afraid of losing their culture. There were fights, misunderstandings, and tensions that threatened to explode into violence. But G1 volunteers worked constantly to bridge gaps. When problems arose, they brought people together to talk rather than letting anger fester. When misunderstandings happened, translators helped clarify before things escalated. It was exhausting work, but it was working. Tay-men made a discovery that changed everything. While working with a Kalarathi engineer named Kirith on power systems for the new cities, he noticed she was solving problems in ways that shouldn't be possible with current technology. How did you calculate that? He asked, pointing at her work. Kirith hesitated. then decided to trust him. We have knowledge from before the Veltherans, ancient technology that our ancestors preserved. We've been hiding it because we knew they wanted it. That's another reason they tried to kill us. She showed him designs for energy systems, propulsion technology, and communication devices far beyond anything Earth possessed. The Calrathi had been protecting this knowledge, waiting for someone they could trust to share it with. We could revolutionize everything, Tieman whispered, understanding the implications. Transportation, energy, medicine, all of it. Yes, Kareth agreed. But only if we work together. The knowledge means nothing without the trust to use it properly. Word spread through official channels that the Galactic Assembly would inspect Earth in 3 months. They wanted to see how humanity handled the refugee crisis. The Veltherans were pushing for this inspection, confident it would show Earth as a failed planet incapable of managing such a large influx. Dr. Hana called an emergency meeting with her coordinators. We have 3 months to show the galaxy that compassion works. Not just for moral reasons, but because if we fail this inspection, the Veltherans will take the Calrathi to another dumping ground. And that place might not be as welcoming. Everyone understood the stakes. They had 3 months to prove that choosing mercy over cruelty was not just the right choice, but the smart one. 3 months to show that refugees were people, not problems. 3 months to change how the galaxy thought about humanity forever. 4 months after the Calrathi arrived, Earth looked different from space. New cities glowed across continents where empty land once existed. Satellite images showed integrated communities where 2 species lived together in ways the galaxy had never seen before. But appearances could be deceiving, and the reality on the ground was more complicated than orbital photos. SUGGESTE Dr. Myung walked through the Joint Research Facility in New Bizin, observing something extraordinary. Human and Calrathi scientists worked side by side, combining their knowledge in ways that produced results neither could achieve alone. A human chemist and Calrathi biologist had just developed a water purification system that was 10 times more efficient than anything previously created. It's fascinating, Myung told her colleague. Our approaches are completely different, but when combined, they create something neither species imagined. We think linearly about problems. They think in cycles. Together, we're solving challenges that stumped us for decades. The breakthroughs came rapidly. Medical treatments that work better than anything in human hospitals. Energy systems that cut pollution by 80%. Agricultural techniques that could feed billions using less land. The economic impact was staggering. Earth's GDP had increased 40% in just 4 months, and projections show continued growth. But success created new problems. Some humans felt threatened by how quickly Calrathi knowledge was changing Earth. Others worried about losing jobs to refugees who had skills they didn't. Fear and resentment grew in pockets across the planet. Min and Kareth worked together constantly, developing technologies that seemed impossible just months earlier. Their latest project was revolutionary, a faster-than-light communication system that could send messages across the galaxy instantly instead of taking weeks or months. If this works, everything changes, Tieman said, checking the calculations for the 100th time. Ships won't be isolated during long voyages. Colonies can stay in touch with their homeworlds. The entire structure of galactic civilization shifts. Kareth nodded, adjusting the prototype. My people preserved this knowledge for generations, waiting for the right time to share it. I think we found the right partners. She paused, then added quietly, I never expected to trust another species again after what the Veltherans did. But you humans keep surprising me. Their partnership had become the model for integration success. Other teams looked at what they accomplished and tried to replicate it. The key was mutual respect. Neither treated the other as superior or inferior. They were equals working toward common goals. G1's education programs expanded beyond simple language teaching. Kalrathi children attended human schools, and the mixing created unexpected friendships. A youth movement emerged, led by young people like Jinsu, who saw the refugees not as aliens, but as neighbors and friends. Jinsu organized rallies across Earth advocating for full Kalrathi citizenship rights. They're not temporary guests anymore, he declared at a massive gathering in Seoul. They live here. They work here. They're building our future with us. It's time we recognize them as full members of Earth society. The movement gained momentum rapidly. Millions of young people joined, creating pressure on governments to formalize integration. Some older generations resisted, but the youth refused to accept anything less than equality. However, not everyone celebrated the changes. Extremist groups on both sides opposed integration. Some humans formed organizations demanding the Kalrathi be sent away. Some Kalrathi traditionalists wanted to maintain complete separation, fearing their culture would be lost through mixing. The tension exploded into violence at a joint research facility in Europe. A coordinated attack by human extremists and Kalrathi separatists, working together, killed 47 people from both species. The bombing shocked the world and threatened to unravel months of progress. Public opinion wavered. Fear spread that more attacks would come. Some called for segregation to prevent further violence. Others wanted to expel any Kalrathi suspected of extremist sympathies. The fragile peace seemed ready to shatter. Dr. Hana addressed the United Nations with tears in her eyes. 47 people died yesterday. 23 humans and 24 Kalrathi. They died together because they believed together. They believed that our species could build something better than fear and hatred. If we respond to their deaths by dividing ourselves, we prove the extremists right. If we respond by standing together, we honor their sacrifice. Elder Crothel appeared beside her, speaking publicly for the first time since arriving on Earth. I lost my family to Veltharan cruelty. I thought I understood hatred. But these attackers, both human and Kalrathi, they don't represent me. They don't represent any of us who choose to build instead of destroy. I stand with Earth. I stand with humanity. And I ask my people to do the same. Captain Deho worked with Kalrathi security leaders to prevent further attacks. Together, they identified the extremist networks and dismantled them through a combination of police work and community intervention. The key was showing both sides that the vast majority of people wanted peace, not violence. The crisis passed, but it left scars. Trust had been damaged, and rebuilding took time and effort. G1 organized massive peace vigils where humans and Kalrathi stood together in silence, honoring the dead and committing to the future. Millions participated worldwide, their shared grief becoming shared determination. As healing began, preparations continued for the Galactic Assembly inspection. Everyone knew this would determine Earth's future and the Kalrathi's fate. The Veltharans were pushing hard for the inspection to happen soon, confident that recent violence proved their point about human incompetence. Then came shocking news. The inspection team would arrive 2 months early, accompanied by a Veltharan military escort. The Empire wanted to document Earth's failure before integration could succeed. They intended to remove the Kalrathi and place them on another punishment world, possibly somewhere even worse. Emergency meetings filled government buildings across Earth. Military forces went on alert. Scientists rushed to complete projects that could demonstrate human-Kalrathi cooperation. Everyone understood the stakes had just increased dramatically. Tay Dashman and Kirith worked frantically to finish the FTL communication prototype. If they could demonstrate it to the inspectors, it would prove that integration produced tangible benefits for the entire galaxy. They had 2 weeks to accomplish what should take 2 months. "We're not going to make it," Taemin said during the 5th sleepless night in a row. "The calculations alone need another month." "Then we work faster," Kirith replied. "My people survived genocide. Your people chose mercy when cruelty was easier. If we can do those things, we can finish this prototype." Around them, teams of human and Kalrathi engineers worked around the clock. The facility never slept. People rotated shifts, but the work continued constantly. They were racing against time and politics, trying to prove something that many in the galaxy believed impossible. Jin Su mobilized his youth movement to prepare demonstrations for the inspectors. Not protests, but celebrations of what had been achieved. He wanted the inspection team to see humans and Kalrathi living together naturally, not as a political statement, but as normal life. Dr. Meng compiled data showing the scientific advances made through cooperation. The medical breakthroughs alone had saved thousands of lives from both species. Agricultural improvements were already being exported to other human colonies. The evidence was overwhelming that integration benefited everyone. But would it be enough? The Veltharans had power and influence in the Galactic Assembly. They had spent months preparing the political ground, convincing other species that Earth's experiment was doomed. One inspection team arriving early with military backing suggested they planned to end the experiment by force if necessary. As the inspection ships entered Earth's solar system, every human and Kalrathi held their breath. Everything they built together, all the progress and sacrifice, would be judged in the coming days. The choice between mercy and cruelty had been made months ago. Now they would learn if that choice would be honored or destroyed. The inspection ships descended through Earth's atmosphere like a judgment from the stars themselves. 3 vessels carried the official Galactic Assembly inspection team, while 12 Veltharan military ships surrounded them in what was officially called an escort, but looked more like an invasion force. On the ground, millions of humans and Kalrathi watched the sky with a mixture of hope and fear. Ambassador Hyan Wu stood at the landing platform outside Seoul, flanked by Dr. Hana and Captain Daeho. Behind them, Elder Krathhol represented the Kalrathi community. All of them wore formal attire, presenting a united front. They had one chance to make their case. The inspection team emerged first. Leading them was Inspector Lyrason, a member of a neutral species known for fairness and thorough evaluation. She had silver skin and 3 eyes that missed nothing. A reputation suggested she couldn't be bought or intimidated, which offered hope but also meant she would see every flaw in what Earth had built. Behind her came Commander Velkran, the Veltharan military officer. He wore armor and carried himself like someone expecting combat. His expression showed open contempt as he surveyed the welcoming committee. "Ambassador Hyan Wu," Lyrason said formally, "we are here to evaluate Earth's management of the Kalrathi refugee situation. We will conduct inspections over 5 days, reviewing facilities, interviewing refugees, and assessing overall integration. Our report will determine whether this arrangement continues or if alternative measures become necessary." The words "alternative measures" sent a chill through everyone present. That meant forcible removal of the Kalrathi to another location chosen by the Veltharans. "Inspector, you'll find Earth has exceeded all expectations," Hyan Wu replied carefully. "We welcome your thorough evaluation and are confident in what we've achieved together." The inspection began immediately. Lyrason and her team toured the original refugee camps first, where the Kalrathi initially arrived. What they found surprised her. The camps were empty, clean but abandoned. Not a single refugee remained there. "Where are they?" she asked, concerned this meant something terrible. "They're in their homes," Dr. Hana explained. "We built permanent housing in integrated communities. The camps were temporary, used only until we could construct proper cities. Would you like to see where people actually live?" The team traveled to New Bazan, one of the largest integrated cities. Lyrason expected to see ghettos or segregated districts. Instead, she found mixed neighborhoods where humans and Kalrathi lived side by side. Children played together in parks. Adults worked together in businesses. The architecture blended styles from both species. A Kalrathi woman ran a restaurant serving fusion cuisine, combining earth ingredients with Kalrathi cooking techniques. Human customers filled half the tables. A human doctor worked in a clinic with a Kalrathi medical assistant, treating patients from both species. A mixed-species construction crew repaired a building, chatting and joking as they worked. "This is remarkable," Lyrason said quietly to her assistant. "I've never seen integration at this level. Even species that have been in the assembly for centuries maintain more separation than this." Commander Velkron scowled. "It's a show. They're performing for you. Give it a month after you leave, and this will collapse into chaos. Then we shall interview residents privately," Lyrason decided, "without officials present. That will reveal the truth." The interviews proved even more impressive. Kalrathi refugees spoke openly about their experiences. Yes, there had been difficulties. Yes, some humans were hostile. But overwhelmingly, they praised the assistance they received. Many considered Earth their home now, not just a temporary refuge. One elderly Kalrathi woman told Lyrason through tears, "The Veltharans tried to kill us slowly. Earth chose to help us live. I lost my husband and 2 children on the colony world. But my granddaughter has friends here, goes to school, has a future. That's more than I dared hope for." A human farmer explained how Kalrathi agricultural knowledge saved his farm from bankruptcy. A Kalrathi engineer described how human creativity helped him solve problems he'd struggled with for years. Story after story showed genuine cooperation and mutual benefit. On the 3rd day, Haiyan Wu presented economic data to the inspection team. Earth's GDP had increased 40% since integration began. Unemployment was at historic lows as new industries emerged from combined human Kalrathi knowledge. Trade with other worlds had expanded as Earth offered unique technologies developed through cooperation. The Veltharans claimed this would destroy our economy, Haiyan Wu said. Instead, we're experiencing the greatest economic boom in human history, and we're sharing these benefits. Every technological advance we make is offered to peaceful assembly members at fair prices. Dr. Hannah showed medical advances next. Treatments for diseases that plagued multiple species. Surgical techniques that reduced recovery time by half. Medications that worked better with fewer side effects. The evidence was overwhelming that integration benefited not just Earth and the Kalrathi, but potentially the entire galaxy. Then came the demonstration everyone had been waiting for. Taemin and Kirath presented the FTL communication prototype. They had finished it just hours before, working through the final night with teams of exhausted engineers. This system allows instantaneous communication across any distance, Taemin explained. No more waiting weeks or months for messages. Ships can stay in constant contact. Colonies won't be isolated. Emergency calls for help will be answered in real time. Kirath activated the device. On the screen appeared a live feed from a human colony 12 light years away. They were talking to someone who should be 12 years in the past or future, depending on message direction. But instead, conversation happened in real time. Larzan's 3 eyes widened. This would revolutionize everything. How did you develop this so quickly? We didn't, Kirath said. My people preserved this knowledge for generations. We shared it with Earth because they earned our trust. This is what cooperation achieves when both sides contribute equally. Commander Velkron stood abruptly. That technology belongs to the Veltharan Empire. The Kalrathi are our subjects. Any knowledge they possess is our property. The Kalrathi are not your subjects, Elder Krathel said coldly. You tried to exterminate us. You have no rights to anything we own. You survived on resources we provided, Velkron argued. You provided defective equipment and contaminated supplies, Captain Deho interrupted. He displayed the evidence he'd been gathering for months. Purchase orders for faulty equipment. Messages between Velthoran officials discussing the elimination plan. Medical records showing deliberate poisoning. This wasn't a failed colony, Deho continued. This was genocide. You tried to kill the Kalrathi slowly, then dumped the survivors on Earth, expecting them to die from neglect. Instead, we chose to help them. And now you're angry because your victims survived and thrived. The room fell silent. Velkron's face showed rage, but he couldn't deny the evidence. Documents with official Velthoran seals proved everything. Narration reviewed the data carefully. These are serious accusations. If proven, they constitute crimes against sentient beings under assembly law. They're lies, Velkron said, but his voice lacked conviction. On the fourth day, something unexpected happened. G1 had organized massive, peaceful demonstrations across Earth. Not protests against the inspection, but celebrations of integration. Millions of humans and Kalrathi filled streets together, showing solidarity in Seoul, Tokyo, New York, Paris, Cairo, Sao Paulo, and hundreds of other cities. People marched with signs saying One Earth, all people, and strength through mercy. The demonstrations were peaceful, joyful, and impossible to ignore. Families mixed together. Children from both species played. Music combined both cultures' traditions. Narration watched from above. This is either the most elaborate deception in history, she said slowly, or it's genuine. And I'm beginning to believe it's genuine. That night, Velkron made his move. Surveillance systems detected him and his team planting evidence of human rights violations at a facility. They were fabricating proof of abuse to undermine the inspection. But Deho's security teams, working with Kalrathi security experts, caught them in the act. The evidence was broadcast live to the inspection team and simultaneously sent to assembly headquarters. Velkron stood exposed not just for past genocide but for current evidence tampering. The Velthoran Empire's credibility shattered in real time. On the fifth day, Narration delivered her preliminary findings. Earth's integration of 6 million Kalrathi refugees is the most successful humanitarian response in recorded galactic history. Not only have they prevented suffering, they've created a model that benefits everyone involved. I will recommend this situation continue and that Earth receive full assembly membership for their achievement. She paused, her three eyes focusing on Velkron. I will also recommend formal investigation into Velthoran actions regarding the Kalrathi colony. The evidence suggests crimes that demand accountability. Velkron's response was swift and terrifying. This inspection is over. Velthoran military forces will now remove the Kalrathi to prevent contamination of Galactic Assembly law. Prepare for extraction operations. Alarms sounded across Earth as Velthoran warships moved into attack positions. The Velthoran warships surrounded Earth like predators circling wounded prey. On the surface, Captain Deho coordinated defensive positions while trying to prevent the war everyone feared. 12 Velthoran military vessels against one planet seemed like hopeless odds. But Earth had advantages the enemy didn't expect. Defensive systems online reported a Kalrathi technician working alongside human operators. Shields at maximum. Weapon batteries charged. We're ready. Deho stared at the tactical display showing red icons surrounding his world. 6 months ago, those ships would have been unstoppable. But Kalrathi defensive technology, combined with human manufacturing capability, had transformed Earth defenses. They wouldn't win a prolonged battle, but they could make the cost of attack devastating. Commander Velcran's voice broadcast across all channels. Surrender the Cruelty immediately or face military consequences. You have 1 hour to comply. Ambassador Hyan Wu stood in the emergency communications center, surrounded by advisors and military leaders. Dr. Hana, Elder Krathel, G1, Taemin, and Kirathal gathered to witness whatever came next. We don't negotiate over people, Hyan Wu said firmly, transmitting his response to the Veltheran fleet. The Cruelty are citizens of Earth now. They stay, or you go through us. Then you choose death, Velcran replied. But before the Veltherans could fire, something unexpected happened. New signals appeared on the tactical display. Ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Dozens of them. Then hundreds. Inspector Lyrason had broadcast everything to Assembly Headquarters. The evidence of genocide, the proof of integration success, the attempted evidence tampering, and now the military threat against a member world. The galaxy had been watching, and the galaxy responded. 12 species sent military vessels to Earth's defense. They surrounded the Veltheran fleet, vastly outnumbering them. Lyrisons and species sent 20 warships, their weapons powered and targeting the Veltherans. Commander Velcran, came a new voice over the communication channel. This is Admiral Kethel of the Assembly Defense Force. You were ordered to power down weapons and withdraw immediately. Failure to comply will result in your destruction. The standoff lasted for 10 minutes that felt like hours. Velcran's ships were trapped, surrounded by superior forces. Finally, new orders came from Veltheran High Command. Stand down. Withdraw. The political cost of fighting was too high. As the Veltheran fleet retreated, Earth erupted in celebration. People poured into streets across every city. Humans and Cruelty embraced, cried, and cheered together. They had faced extinction and survived. They had proven that compassion was stronger than cruelty. But the victory was bigger than just Earth. Dr. Hana watched news feeds showing reactions across the galaxy. The broadcasts of Earth's integration success had spread to every assembly world. On 12 different planets, species that had been under Veltheran control began organizing protests and demanding independence. The Veltheran Empire, built on fear and domination, started crumbling. Subjected people saw that resistance was possible. They saw that the Empire wasn't invincible. They saw what Earth chose mercy over cruelty, and they wanted the same thing. Over the following weeks, the Galactic Assembly held emergency sessions. Formal genocide charges were filed against Veltheran officials. Economic sanctions punished the Empire. Subject species gained independence one by one, peacefully or otherwise. The power structure that had dominated the galaxy for centuries collapsed in months. Earth received full assembly membership with accelerated status. No longer a junior member, but a recognized leader in humanitarian affairs. Ambassador Hyan Wu found himself advising other species on integration policies. Dr. Hana's programs became models copied across dozens of worlds. The 6 million Cruelty formally received dual citizenship. They were citizens of Earth and the Cruelty people simultaneously. Legal, permanent, and equal in every way. Some chose to remain primarily Cruelty in culture. Others embraced human customs. Most blended both, creating something new that belonged to neither species alone, but to everyone. Construction began on a new city called Mercy, designed from the ground up as a joint capital. The architecture blended human and Cruelty styles so completely that visitors couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. The city would house government offices for both peoples, symbolizing their permanent union. Tae-min and Kirithus FTL communication technology spread across the galaxy. Assembly members purchased the system eagerly, and Earth shared it at fair prices. The revenue funded more integration programs, more research, and more cooperation. The technology that Kilrathi preserved and humans helped refine became the foundation for a new era of galactic civilization. G1's educational model was adopted on 17 different worlds within the first year. Her approach of mutual learning, rather than one-sided teaching, proved effective across species. She traveled between planets, training educators and helping establish programs that brought people together instead of keeping them apart. Admiral Deho, promoted for his role in defending Earth, now commanded Joint Assembly peacekeeping forces. His fleet included ships crewed by mixed species teams, showing the galaxy that cooperation worked not just in civilian life, but in military operations. His most trusted second-in-command was a Kilrathi officer who had been a refugee in the original Sol. Camp. Dr. Myung's Research Institute became the premier center for cross-species scientific cooperation. Researchers from dozens of worlds came to study how different species could combine their knowledge for breakthrough discoveries. The Institute published papers that advanced medicine, engineering, agriculture, and dozens of other fields. Elder Krathel retired peacefully in a small house in New Bizen. He tended a garden that grew plants from both Earth and the lost Garathi colony world, keeping memories alive while embracing the present. Children from the neighborhood, both human and Kilrathi, often visited to hear his stories and learn about history. Jinsu represented the new generation that didn't see species, only people. He served on the Joint Earth-Kilrathi Council, making decisions about their shared future. His generation had grown up during integration, and to them, working across species lines was normal, not revolutionary. 1 year after the Velthrons dumped refugees on Earth as punishment, the planet hosted a memorial ceremony at the site where the first ships landed. Millions gathered to honor those who died during the colony's collapse and the difficult early months on Earth. The monument bore names in both human and Kilrathi languages, remembering sacrifice while celebrating survival. Dr. Hannah spoke at the ceremony with Elder Krathel beside her. The Velthrons sent you here to punish both our peoples. They expected cruelty to meet cruelty. They expected us to reject refugees in their darkest hour. They believed mercy was weakness. She paused, looking at the massive crowd of humans and Kilrathi standing together. They were wrong. Mercy is the strongest force in the universe. It builds where cruelty destroys. It unites where hatred divides. It creates futures where fear sees only endings. Elder Krathel added, "My people were dying. We lost everything. We expected nothing from Earth except perhaps a slower death than the Velthrons gave us. Instead, you gave us life. You gave us hope. You gave us home." Captain Deho stood in the crowd, watching children play near the monument. A human girl and a Kilrathi boy were teaching each other games, laughing at their attempts to explain rules across language barriers. Their parents watched with smiles, sharing snacks and conversation. This was what they fought for. This was what they built. Not grand political achievements or technological breakthroughs, though those mattered, but simple moments of people being people together, regardless of what planet they were born on or what species they belonged to. The former Velthran Empire dissolved peacefully over the following decade. Former colonies joined the reformed Galactic Assembly as equal members. When historians asked what inspired the change, every species gave the same answer. They pointed to Earth, the planet that chose mercy over cruelty when cruelty seemed easier. The species that saw refugees not as problems, but as people. The world that proved compassion was strength, not weakness. Earth's emblem in the assembly showed a human hand and a Kilrathi hand clasped together. Below it, in languages from across the galaxy, was their motto, strength through compassion. 6 million refugees arrived as punishment. Humanity responded with mercy. And that choice changed the galaxy forever. From orbit, Earth glowed with lights from cities, built by two species working together. Ships from dozens of worlds visited constantly, their crews eager to see the miracle planet where integration actually worked. Where different peoples didn't just tolerate each other, but built something better together. In parks, markets, schools, and homes across Earth, humans and Kalrathi lived side by side. Not as separate groups forced together, but as neighbors, friends, families, and citizens of one world. Children born after integration knew no other way of life. To them, the idea of separating species seemed as strange as separating people by eye color or height. The Vultharans intended cruelty. They dumped refugees on Earth, expecting disaster. Instead, they inadvertently created the foundation for a new kind of civilization.